Welcome to episode 29 of Auto Off Topic. I'm Brad.
I'm your other host, Andrew. And another episode, another guest this week. We had a really positive response to the last episode, and I just want to thank all our listeners. That means a lot to us. We didn't intend for this to be a Mitsubishi exclusive podcast, but the Mitsubishi enthusiast community is a bit underserved, and we're happy to fill that void, I guess.
As well as some other things that, sneak in there. Motorsports and
certainly.
Just general car stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we just love cars. It just happens that we own Mitsubishis, and I guess it sort of worked out that way. But we're going to do something a little different because last week we talked about 4x4s and off-roading, and we kind of did the week before.
Yep.
We're going to go more with Lancer Evolutions, Galant VR4s.
We're still on pavement, though.
Yeah. Well, some of it's pavement. I mean, more of the rally and track performance of Mitsubishis. And that brings us to our guest tonight, who is Alex Grabau, formerly of Dent Sport Garage.
Good evening, guys. Thanks for having me.
Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yeah, Grabau. Yeah, everybody says Grabau. I'm not French. It's a Dutch
cool.
origin. Yeah.
So Alex owns and races. It's an Evo 3, correct?
It's Evo 2, but they're kind of the same thing. So.
Yeah. It has Evo 3 side skirts, right?
Yeah, it does.
That's what always confuses me on that car. I've seen it.
And,
apparently, that's a popular thing to do. I don't know why.
They probably deeper and more aggressive, I think. So they're probably just changed, by previous owners at some point.
Yep, right.
So Alex has this car set up for hill climbs and track days, and you're currently prepping it for the Mount Washington climb of the clouds in June, right?
I am.
That's cool. And you've had that. I guess we'll talk about that car because it's nicknamed the PleasureEVO, right? So
it is.
If you're on Instagram, we'll get that out right now. You can go and look at it. You can still listen to the podcast, but you can go on Instagram and look at it on your phone. If you look up at PleasureEVO.
Yeah, it's just PleasureEVO, one word.
Yep. There's all pictures of the car. And I've got a couple pictures of it on mine just from different events. But those are a little harder to find. This is a single-serving Instagram just for
the one car.
Just for the one car, which is cool.
I thought I'd give it a shot. Apparently, people like single stream feeds.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
Andrew has one for his dog. I didn't think anybody would follow it. And there's a ton of followers.
There's like a million for dogs.
Should I say Stephanie has one for Andrew's dog?
Yeah, there's so many for dogs.
It's a black lab, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's probably a couple. There's at least 3 on Instagram.
Oh, more than that.
At least 3 that you know of. Probably 3,000 if you think about it.
I think there's 3 just from the Boston area.
Yeah. Maybe
so
3 million.
So anyway, on the PleasureEVO, you've owned that for quite a while. I think it's over 10 years, right?
This is true. Yeah, I got it in 2004, so it's pretty crazy. I have had it for a while now. I'm surprised, actually.
And just slowly developing it over all the years?
Yeah, it goes through periods of sort of heavy development and then refinement and then storage and then renewed interest followed by refinement, I suppose.
So is there okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's been since 2004 and it started out sort of as a street car, but I mean, it was a stock car when I got it, I should say, and slowly over time it went down that path of becoming a track car.
So is there a story behind the name PleasureEVO, or is that just...
Yeah, a little bit. It started out kind of as a joke because I think for a while in maybe 07 to 09, I wanted to sell it. It was driving me crazy. It was sort of that period when your job collides with your hobby and you just start hating everything at the same time. And my friend Ron Adams, who we were racing with, he had a Subaru STI. He saw my frustration and he named it, ironically, the PleasureEVO because it provided me with very little pleasure. But it was also sort of like a homage to like a cigarette livery, like a Newport Alive with Pleasure.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay.
555 and all the cigarette liveries we've come to know, and maybe also a little bit of Depeche Mode influence in there too, because we like Depeche Mode. So all those things.
Excellent. We all like Depeche Mode. We're all very fans of.
I'm glad to hear that.
That genre of music.
Yep.
So PleasureEVO was named kind of like everybody's got a friend Tiny Joe or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's really a big person.
Yeah.
It's true.
Reverse nickname. You call it a right-handed pitcher lefty, and
yeah, exactly. So so was there a point where it was this car is no longer going to be a street car, it's going to be a race car, or was it just kind of that snowballing downhill kind of thing like everybody gets into?
Yeah, I guess it started. I had a few sports cars before it, and I've just really loved driving this car. It was the best, just stock. It was completely stock when I got it. I think I said that, but it was very light and nimble, and it was powerful enough that you could get going pretty fast, and it did everything you asked of it. And I think that I wanted to appreciate that more at the track a little bit, because you have like a really slow car you can drive on the street kind of flat out everywhere and no one notices.
Right.
And it's fun to sort of drive at the edge if you have like a Volvo 240 wagon or something.
Yeah, slow car fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this was like a little too fast for that. So I started doing some track days with it, and it was really fun. And then, of course, you're like, oh, if I just get some wider wheels and some wider tires, and if I just get a bigger turbo, and then after a little while, it just started getting a little bit too much for the road, a little bit too much attention, a little too loud. And it actually didn't take long since I got it, because I had bought it with the intent only of using it on the track anyway. So I'd say like within the year, it was strictly off-road vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I remember the rumors and grumblings that there was one coming when you were getting it, and seeing it at a car show somewhere. I don't remember what car show it was.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
It may have been maybe Japanese Car Day or something in Brookline, or somewhere the car went to when it was still stock and street driven. And it was just like,
you guys go back far enough that you remember all that. Not many people remember that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Andrew had his car tuned back in your old garage, didn't he?
Man, I did a couple dyno days.
So.
Yeah. Well, not tuned, but dynoed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that was I did have on the Galant. I had you guys throw an intercooler on it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they made the piping for you, right?
Well, made it fit.
Yeah. Made it fit more in the hodgepodge that it was in the car to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds right. Did a lot of that.
What I don't know. Should we want to do some car history first, or before we get too far into the PleasureEVO, or should we keep going with that?
I think we'll keep going with the PleasureEVO because we're already in the middle of it, and people are listening about what that is. And
yeah.
So to continue, I guess the real change was for hill climb, and New England Hill Climb Association mandated a roll cage at some point. They had these sort of obscure, difficult to understand breakout rules.
Yeah,
they established some breakout time that if you came in under this certain time at a certain hill, you could do it one weekend, but then if you did it again, you had to come back with a cage the next time. And it was all these weird rules. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to cage the car because it's fast enough and it's dangerous anyway. So once you put a roll cage in a car, it's not really fun to drive on the road anymore anyway. So that was the end of it.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out, the breakout time thing, because we're looking into some hill climbs with Brad's got a beat up old Starion that we need to put back together, and we'll probably just use it for stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
We're assuming it's not fast enough to break out, so.
It probably is. I mean, the thing is, in your first event, you probably won't break out, right? Like, if you gave your car to an old timer, they could probably do it in the first run, but it takes a little figuring out. Like, all those events are about course memory.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't really know the course, you could have a very fast car and still not break out.
I think the thing I like about hill climb too is it's a throwback event, really, to like the beginning of automobiles. It was one of the first types of racing.
It really was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was hill climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in New England, it has a long history of it.
It does. I think 1906 was the first Mount Washington.
Yep. And then even a lot of the smaller hill climbs are very historic too.
Yep.
I think Mark Donahue got his start in like Vermont doing hill climbs, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it is the first type of auto racing, and I think that I like it more because you're doing it in a beautiful setting. You're outdoors, in the woods in Vermont, and not at some track in the parking lot. in another state that's not Vermont, let's say.
Yeah.
Which is any other state in the country.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
Vermont is very special.
I was going to say New Jersey, so we'll just say New Jersey.
Okay,
right?
okay. It's not New Jersey.
Yeah.
Not New Jersey.
Right. Vermont and New Jersey are pretty close as far as geographic, but couldn't be further apart as far as states themselves.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons we started talking about it ourselves, because we're big into doing the overlanding and off-road trips, and we camp all the time, and so it's kind of a way to combine everything together, and it's probably one of the more affordable ways, I think, to enter into a motorsport beyond autocross or rallycross.
For sure, and it's like a true. You really feel like you're having an event. And I'll try to skirt around bagging on other forms of motorsport, but this is.
I started it. It's okay.
It's a real race, right? Like, and it's dangerous and it's fast, and you're right. It's not super expensive, and it doesn't take a huge toll on your equipment. Like, even less than a track day would. You don't go through brake pads. You don't go through tires.
Yeah, shorter stints, less heat.
Well, you're going uphill too, at least for braking, right? Yeah. Most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. You generally don't have to brake as hard unless you have a super powerful car.
Which an 84 Starion is not.
No.
Right. Yeah, you might not have to use the brakes at all.
And then the other thing too, it's compact, right? So like a stage rally, if you were to do that, it's spread over maybe 100 miles of like geographic area and all these different stages, and the car has to drive there and then finish a stage, and
your support team has to follow you around.
Yeah, and get back to service. At least with this, it's all compact in one place.
Yeah. And you also, with rally, you have these challenges of if you want to win, you need to bring a lot of tires, and you need to bring pads and crew and fuel.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it very, very grassroots. We're gonna show up with a car and drive to the top of the mountain, and then do it a couple of times and go home.
Yeah, exactly.
I did that for many years, and it was really fun.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Rewarding. Yeah, it's a good crew too. It's really a huge cross section of people that are all very interesting.
Oh, that's what happened. Is I was at a rallycross last weekend with another friend of the podcast, Jordan, and his STI, and at the after, the events, the after awards, I should say. One of the other hill climb competitors and stage rally competitors was sitting there talking about it, and he gave us his card, which had all the, the events in the New England area listed on it, and the next thing you know, they're showing us videos, and it's like, all right, we're sold. I mean, we were already sold, but now we've been really pushed.
Now you're really sold.
We have this car that we've been kind of like, what are we going to do with it? And now I know what we're going to do with it. So
it's almost a bit cultish, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but so's rallycross.
Starion or hill climb?
Hill climb and Starion ownership.
Yes.
Definitely.
So
I like Starions. It's a cool car.
So you started modifying the PleasureEVO for hill climbs. And
yeah, that was the first kind of thing I did.
So like a cage.
I did a few track days first, actually, and then I did some hill climb.
So a cage was like the first thing, and then
I bought a cage, a pre-bent cage from the UK. It was from Custom Cages, and they shipped it over.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of a period correct cage. It had like a single door bar, a single diagonal. It was fine. Like it passed tech for hill climb, no problem. It was fine for almost any track event, and the car was still like you could get in and out easily of it.
Yeah.
And it was still like not super loud, and it ran on street gas and had a stock ECU, and had a lot of things that allowed you to, drive it inexpensively at events, which was kind of nice. And maybe it would have been nice to press pause on development there. It's like just enjoy it and drive it a lot and have it not need a lot of engines and a lot of parts and maintenance. But I kept going with it, and so we did Redline Time Attack also for a few years.
Yeah.
And started out in the street class, which really wasn't street cars. I mean, you know how that goes. It's like street class, but people bring aero cars and 500-600 horsepower cars. And
that's kind of the rule with auto racing in general. If there's a way to bend the rules, somebody will.
Oh, they got bent.
Well, yeah, it's the unfair advantage, right? You figure out.
Speaking of Mark Donahue.
Yeah.
So the synopsis of the Redline Time Attack GT Live years were start in street class, do very well, move up to modified class, do less well. Moved to Unlimited and surprisingly do well because there weren't many cars in Unlimited. And the car started breaking a lot because it was getting pushed really hard. And we did a bunch of National Series events. In the last year, we did Redline Time Attack. And then I pretty much stopped using the car entirely until, for I think 3 years, until 2011 when Climb to the Clouds came back. And that was the first time I had gotten the car in a few years.
So Redline Time Attack, that was probably 05, 06, 07-ish?
Yeah, I think 06 might have been the first one. I did the very first one at Beaver Run in Pennsylvania.
Because I think I remember coverage of that in like Sport Compact Car back in the heydays of that magazine.
Yeah, because I don't think it's Redline Time Attack anymore, is it?
That's Optima. The Optima Challenge is that one, or is it something else?
You got me.
Yeah, I don't even know anymore.
Might be like Grid something. I don't know.
No idea.
Yeah. So at what point? Because I know. So these generation Evos came with the 7-bolt 4G63. Okay.
They did.
So
and mine was a 7-bolt.
Yeah.
And when I got the car, actually, it needed a lot of work. It was abused. It was put away wet, and the only thing that wasn't wet actually was the transfer case because there was no fluid in it, and it turned into like a molten pile of metal.
Yeah.
So that's actually before I drove it. So when I went to pick the car up, I had to drag it onto the trailer because the wheels were all locked.
Yeah.
And so the first thing was put in a new transfer case and go from there. And I did that. And probably like a year later, I was having some clutch problems at New Hampshire. I was like, my clutch pedal feels really weird. I don't know what's going on. So I inspected the clutch and the flywheel, and I was able to move the flywheel like almost a centimeter off the block.
Oh.
Because there was no thrust bearing left in the engine. So the 7-bolt did its 7-bolt thing, and it ate the thrust bearing.
Yeah, because these cars had like the 7-bolt was like a half thrust bearing.
Yeah, and it had the crank walk.
Yes.
So it got a case of the crank walk.
Now, I was unaware that the Evos had the same issue the second gen closest had.
Like the same thing, same problem.
Makes me a little more hesitant to go out and buy one.
It's almost like every car I like is you just have to count on it needing an engine right away when you buy it. Like, if I got a GC8, like I want my next car, I want to get a Japanese GC8, like a STI. And I'm just ready. I just know it's going to need an engine right off the bat,
That's kind of the whole thing with enthusiast cars, I think. You get something that's, designed to be abused, and guess what? You're going to get one that's been abused.
Yeah, especially if you buy cars that are now approaching 20 years old.
Yeah,
20 30,
years old.
Like 5 years old, yeah.
Yeah, and 30 years old,
Yeah.
They've been...
So I put a Gallant block in. We had a lot of blocks around, luckily, at the shop. And then that was a good opportunity to do a built block. And did some higher compression pistons, I think 9-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
And some rods. And then I went through a few iterations for engines because they all broke in various ways. But that helped out a lot. That made the car a lot more reliable.
By not running the 7-bolt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's why 6-bolts are so desirable.
Right. Yeah, I bet they're really hard to find these days.
They're getting to that point, yeah.
They're still out there, but they're not exactly common.
No, or ones that are in good shape either. There's been, you might find one that's like trashed or something, and like I bought one. It came with my parts car for the Gallant, but I was able to. I kind of knew the guy, and he wanted to get rid of the car. He was losing storage, so he sold me the car and the engine for $400. So I got lucky there. But
that's awesome.
It spun the number 1 rod bearing, and that's why he put the car away and took it apart. So that had to be. We had to like grind the crank and build it back up, and then put some oversized bearings in it. But so that at least saved that engine because otherwise it was fine.
That's good.
Or you have my Gallant, which is a similar story. Somebody put a motor in it to get it back on the road. Didn't know the history of the motor, and maybe 100 miles into running it, that spun a bearing as well. So all 6 bolts. So nothing perfect, I guess. Just old motors and. Yep. If you don't know what you're putting in the car, then you probably inspect it a little bit, I guess, first. But
they just spin around so fast.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
With a lot of boost in them.
Magic, actually. I think it's magic.
Yeah.
Cars are magic. We discussed that before. You know, the ultimate magic is the automatic transmission, but anything in a car is magic.
Yeah.
I'm not credentialed to even discuss that.
No, neither are we. We just look at them and throw them in the trash and buy a different car.
Well, yeah. I had one that broke in my truck. I just put a different one in because it's not even worth rebuilding it.
Right. Or one of my Sapporo that continues to do stupid things.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So after the car now has like a 6-bolt in it, and I mean, if you're listening to this and you want to know more about the car, I definitely go look at the PleasureEVO Instagram because there's lots of interesting pictures of it, and you've got some pretty serious like intercooler setup, but that's basically because at the time you had I don't want to say like a tuning shop, but a fabrication and race shop, so. Mm-hmm. You sort of had access to that stuff, but you probably would have done it anyways, even if you didn't have the shop, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, to some extent. The shop certainly helped sponsor really weird decisions. Having the stuff there to do it. Maybe the route to where I am now would have been a little more direct or conservative. But we did, I mean, it had several engines. It had several intercoolers. It had several cylinder heads. I ran a 1G head for a while because I thought that the ports were bigger, so it was better, but it wasn't. And so I went back to an Evo head with an Evo intake manifold. And for a while I had a Subaru APS SR 55 or something turbo, and it was like adapted from a Subaru. And I made this radiator that had like a canyon in the middle that the intercooler pipe passed through to feed the so the radiator had it was like a buck tooth kind of look. It was really dumb. Like, why would anybody do that, right? It didn't make any sense.
Because you could.
Because you could, right? Yeah. And I was like, it's just a total waste of time.
But at the same time, it probably also served as an advertising for the shop, too. Like, hey, look what I can build.
Rad. Yeah, I mean, it looked rad. But, so now everything's square and everything's 90 degrees. And almost all the components are good, like known things, no parts on eBay, none of that. And I, for example, I was able to work with C&R directly this year to get a really nice radiator and get one with the fins that were the right fin for what I'm doing with the car. And, it turns out they have a lot of different fin designs for different types of motorsports. So stuff like that. So we've really narrowed down closely on what the car is being used for, and been able to extract a lot of performance from doing that.
Oh, that's cool. So, I guess we'll change gears here a little bit. Maybe we'll grind in a second because it's a Mitsubishi, right?
Actually, what is the transmission in the PleasureEVO? Is it still basically a stock Mitsu unit, or has it been built by somebody, or you? Or
it's a dog box, and it's a special one.
Very cool.
It's a Group A one from Ralliart. It looks like what is it, W55M, whatever they're calling it.
I think that is, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like one of those on the outside, but it's like a little green because the case is magnesium.
What?
And and it's really beefy, and it's got semi-helical gears. The tooth angle is a little bit shallower, so the gears are stronger. And it's a dog engagement, so no synchros. It's really nice, and also has really good diffs inside it, and close ratio, short gearing. It made the car, like I tell people all the time, that this is the best component in the whole car.
I would imagine,
Well, it's sort of that. It was that secret sauce Group A stuff that they were using.
It's amazing that you have that. Like, I have a Ralliart hat and I'm happy, but you have a Ralliart Group A transmission. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I have two of them actually.
That's pretty ridiculous, and it's pretty awesome.
I have a 0 mile spare, and people freak out about wanting to buy it, but I don't want to sell it because if you sell all these parts, the car is like useless, right? So I'll hold on to it.
So how did you come across Group A Ralliart transmission? Is it just diligent people knowing, or
super nice friends like Ramana, who had them for his Galant, the Vermont sports car built.
Okay.
And he never used them, so over a few years I was able to pay him for those, and he saw, so during the peak PleasureEVO years, the gearbox was breaking like every event. And I think once you hit like 350, 400 foot-pounds, the Mitsubishi 5-speed gives up fourth gear like every time. Because fourth gear's undercut because they press this conical needle bearing onto the gear shaft, and it sits under the gear, so they undercut the gear so all the teeth aren't supported. And it just explodes or strips or however it decides I'm failing. So that was happening to me all the time. And I was like ready to just park the car for good. And Ramana was super nice to offer me those gearboxes at a really good price. So
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome, actually.
Yeah.
That's probably the coolest part of the whole car, I'd assume.
It is. I think it is.
In my opinion, anyway.
Mine too.
That's awesome. So what led to the Evo? What was the so you want to go to, Andrew, the history of the cars before it? Like what brought you down the path to Mitsubishi ultimately, or was there a stepping stone? Were you an Eclipse driver? What happened first?
No, my very first car was an RX-7.
Excellent. I've had a few of those myself.
1979 or early 80s RX-7. And I always loved Japanese cars. My dad had an RX-7 when I was really young. He like cherished the thing. And I think some of that rubbed off on me or something because I really liked that car too. I bought my RX-7 at a junkyard. It didn't run, and it turned out that it was just out of gas. So I went to the gas station, and it was mint. It had no rust or anything. And they sold it to me. I said, okay, I'll be back to pick it up. And I went and got gas and filled it up and drove it off. And the guy was super pissed because it was like $300 I think I paid for it.
That's awesome.
Well, it's his fault.
He thought it was broken. And so anyway, the Evo was something like I don't know, I say right when the internet like started happening and it became a thing and people had remember those tripod websites?
Oh yeah, like Angel Fire and Tripod.
Yeah, Tripod was like the Japanese Angel Fire.
Okay.
I used to go on at Mass Bay Community College on the internet, and I would look on these Angel Fire websites at Evos, and because they were on Speed Vision, we were watching Rally at that time.
Yep.
Late 90s, and
that's peak Gran Turismo time too.
Yeah, I just started freaking out about early Evos, and I wanted one so bad. But I've always been into 90s cars, and it's not just Japanese cars. I had an E30 M3. I've had a few 190E Mercedes. So I kind of, two Cosworths and one just regular.
Excellent.
190 2.3. So yeah, the Evo was always a special car, and I loved rallying, and I guess every homologation vehicle I think is cool in some way. So,
no question. A car that shouldn't exist but does just for one purpose makes it kind of awesome.
Right. And I feel that way about motorcycles too. So that was sort of what led me down that road. And then I had a Galant VR4, and I think I got it in like '99.
Yeah, so it's a pretty new car.
Yeah,
and thinking back, it kind of was right. Like it wasn't that old back then.
No.
Yeah, I think back like that because it was '99 when I got my first DSM, so it was kind of like the same era where I was like, "Oh, the car's only 9 years old. This is a new car."
Yeah, exactly. I got mine in 2001, so it was only 11 years old at the time.
Yeah,
these weren't that old cars. Now we're old, and the cars are old.
Now people don't know what they are when they see them at a driving age.
I know. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a little frightening.
So I did a little work on that Galant, and then I'd always wanted the Evo, and the timing was right when I got it. So.
We won't ask the specifics of that, but it's pretty cool that you had one here so early.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it was definitely a jealous moment for every Mitsubishi fan in the Northeast.
There are a few of them around. You'd be surprised.
Oh, I know a few of them, but yours is the only one that I ever saw, I think, out and about. Because
I don't know, nobody else
brought them out.
I know of one that was. I'm going to try to be cagey here, but it was found in someone's yard who didn't know what it was, and it was sold for $2,500.
I would probably murder somebody for that deal.
So think about that one for a little bit.
That's weird.
And that was an Evo 3 RS.
Weird. Jesus, that's awesome. Yeah, there's an Evo 5 in Salem. That we know of. We know the guy who owns that. That's pretty cool.
And an Evo 5, also down on the South Shore.
Yes, I know that the silver one as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a few. I mean, that's just mass, right? Like they're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're around.
Too. Yeah.
There's an Evo 3, one of the guys that comes to hill climbs or rally sprints
Excellent.
up in New Hampshire. So
Cool.
they're around.
Someday I'll have one. Maybe when I finally fix the Gallant, I'll get rid of it and buy an Evo.
Well, yeah, you should be able to import them now.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can get Evo 1s now, right?
Evo 1s and almost Evo 2s, I think. It was only 1 year for the one, wasn't it? Or the Evo.
Yeah.
So, but I've been
Sometimes
saying
you
about
can-
import something for a while, and I haven't, so who knows?
Yeah. The thing to do, if you really are tricky, is to, well, see, now Montreal, you can't have a right-hand drive car that's not grandfathered.
Right.
Oh, I
But if you
didn't know
really
that.
wanted to be tricky about things, you could buy something and store it up there. Buy it the year before it's legal. Because the year it becomes
save some
legal,
money.
Yeah.
the price goes insane. But the year before, it's totally normal.
Yeah, I have a friend in Ontario
Yeah, that would be good.
with a big warehouse full of cars, and he imports them all the time. So if you have the desire to do that, let me know. I'll get you guys in touch.
Cool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
his
will.
business.
I'll look him up for when I do that Subaru.
That's his business, importing cars from pretty much exclusively Japan.
Well, that's where our friend Chris got his Delica, right?
Yeah, and I went up there. I flew up with our friend Chris to Ontario to check the thing out, and we drove home his Delica from there to here, and it was the same
Cool.
thing. He bought it just before it was legal. He stored it up there for like 7 or 8 months, and then
Yep.
as soon as he could go up there and get it, we hopped a plane, picked it up, and drove it home. So
That's great.
we've already done it once, so we know he's cool with it. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely
No,
a
it's
worthwhile endeavor.
Totally doable.
And he's a legit business. He's a good guy too. So
Cool.
I'll definitely say yeah if you ever need to be.
For sure.
And that goes for anybody listening. Actually, if you're looking to buy a car, I got somebody who'll help you out.
Yeah.
You see the market value of the cars. If you look on, there's a couple Japanese auction websites that I follow every now and then. And the Evo 3 now or early Evo CD or CE9A is selling for as much as a CT9A. So it's like a Evo 789 for price for a clean one, which is crazy. I mean, that's the same thing happened to Escort Cosworths when
Yeah,
we got our shop, and we always joked about buying one. They were like $5,000,
Yeah.
and now they're 40 or 50 grand,
Yeah,
just like that.
yeah. I'm actually a little upset that Fords have gotten so expensive.
Yeah,
They're completely out of price, out of range now.
yeah,
unfortunately.
that's a lot of money for an old car.
Yeah. I have a couple of Japanese auction sites that I follow too for the same purpose, and it's the models that are well known do that very near the import date. There's two jumps. There's the 15-year jump for Canada and then the 25-year jump for here.
Yeah,
So I've been noticing that as well. But usually it's more cars that are known. If you're looking to get into something that's a little less of an Evo or a Skyline, you can still do it. But
yeah, that's true.
the hot cars to get, the STIs, the Evos, the Skylines. That's
Yeah, like
unfortunate.
like the diesel Pieros, like the early ones. Those
Yep.
are still pretty reasonable, I think.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap. So
Because nobody really wants them.
relatively cheap. Nobody wants them but us.
Yeah, but like the FJ80s now or FJ60s that are legal.
They're big bucks.
Yeah, those are big bucks.
Yeah, huge money, which is ridiculous.
Toyotas are always expensive. Any year on those auctions are expensive. It's nuts.
Yeah, even some of the lesser Toyotas are, I've noticed too, which is strange to me. But it's just the Toyota reputation of Toyota, I guess. And Hondas too are the same way. There's a whole scene that wants right-hand drive EG hatches, so you're not going to get those.
Yeah.
Those are big bucks. But anyway, so what was the span of cars, like as far as if we probably had way too many to discuss every one, but just kind of a quick history of the important ones. You had one car that I loved, but you can get to that eventually. But before that, what else was there?
So there was the E30 M3 was sort of a special car for me. I really liked that car a lot. I had a lot of really crazy stories from driving that car all over the place and being an idiot young kid, crazy. I ended up totaling it. I rolled it on the street into the woods.
Oops.
So it was like a real Viking funeral, in hindsight, it was kind of a good way to see it go because I'm okay and I didn't get hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, it's pretty boring when you sell it and it's gone. But if like you drive it like it's supposed to be driven, if you ignore the fact that I was on a public road, then
You were young. We'll let it slide.
I was young still. I can operate under that disclaimer.
The statute of limitations has passed, I'm sure.
So it's over. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that was a cool one. The first 190E I bought, first Cosworth, I should say. I flew to Florida and picked it up, and it's kind of a weird one. This dude was like a Blues Brothers fanatic, and he picked me up at the airport in a Blues Brothers replica police car.
So Dodge Monaco,
Like,
right?
I don't even know.
That is
It's
amazing.
Totally wacky, right? Like, what a weird intro. He drove me to a storage container, and he's like, "Here it is." And I was like, "Great, I already paid him." I'm like, "I'll see you later." And he goes, "You're driving home?" I go, "What did you think I was going to do?" He goes, "Don't call me if this breaks down 1 block away from here."
Oh, wow.
So I drove it home, and it was fine. Didn't miss a beat. And then I was in an accident the next day, 1 block from my house, and it was totaled.
Oh, that sucks.
Not my fault. Not my fault, that one, I should say. So that was a short-lived one. Then with the insurance money from that one, I was able to get another one. So anyway, those were some other cars that I cared about. I had a Raider, a Mitsubishi Montero
Yeah, they had a crazy motor swap too, right?
with a 1J twin turbo.
Awesome.
Always comes back to Raiders on this podcast.
Yeah, it does.
I'll be short on that, but that was probably the best project I've ever done because it was like on time, under budget, and it blew my expectations out of the water for how cool it was going to be. Like, it was unbelievably fast because it was such a light little tin can.
Yeah, we. I don't know how much you've listened to the show, if you have it all, but we're
couple of them,
we're a bit Raider fanatical around here,
Yeah.
and we have many of them. So I remember that it was like the blue color, which is actually pretty rare, like grayish
Oh, really?
blue. Yeah, there weren't very many of them. And I know you had taken the bumpers off, and that looked cool.
Yeah.
And was it still 4-wheel drive or not?
It was just rear. It had
Okay.
the Supra transmission.
Okay, but
I was inspired by the early Dakar
right,
version,
which we're
It has
all
no bumper.
inspired by, but have
Yeah,
run
of
the
course,
88 horsepower motor that comes with it and just live with it.
Yeah. So this had 300, to the wheels.
That's awesome.
It was nothing could beat it on the road because you would catch even like really fast cars like Corvettes or something. You'd catch them off guard.
Because they weren't expecting it.
They wouldn't expect it. They thought they'd roll slowly, and you're gone.
That's
It was so fast.
absolutely amazing. What did that have for end in it? Was it like a Ford 9-inch or?
No, it had the standard
Those are
Raider
standard
rear
one.
end.
Excellent.
Those are
So-
like
Yeah, it was-
those are like an 8.5 or 9. Those are big.
Yeah, so it was probably
One wheel
geared,
wonder though, no limited slip. It would just light them up.
Oh, so the base.
but it was geared really low too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it had some top speed to it.
oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites from your past. And my other favorite was your other E30,
Oh yeah,
which is the car I remember you most for.
That E30 was a funny one. It was a street car, and I met my wife and took her out on the first date in that car when it was a 318i. And then in my grandparents' driveway, I rented an apartment for my grandparents. They have an apartment house in Newton, Mass. And I rented an apartment there. And in the driveway, I built this car, and it was a 4G63 powered E30 with a Mighty Max transmission, which was complete garbage. And
But it's the cheapest way to put a 5-speed behind a 4G, so
Real
apparently,
Yeah.
yeah,
Still
now there's,
is.
other options, but
it's still the cheapest way to do it.
They never, like, those bell housings never existed back then. That guy built Hincher.
Yeah, the Bill Hincher ones. Yep.
Yeah, that wasn't even a thing. And it took me a long time to build because I didn't have another car. And I'd put myself in this situation when I started dating this girl, and then I immediately took my car off the road. So I showed my hand right away about what kind of person I was,
That's awesome.
and I embarked on this stupid project. And it was kind of funny because the way the gearing worked out, the car probably would have gone 210 miles an hour. It's first gear it wind out to 55, 60 miles an hour. I don't know what was going on in that, but then it broke the tranny right away. And I tried to build this hybrid Mighty Max tranny. I think this was the first rear-wheel drive 4G63 car in the country, by the way. I don't think another person had done this.
That's a cool claim, and we certainly have some listeners who will call you out on that if it's not.
No, remember that Project Zero G?
Yes.
Guy?
Yep. Yeah, he's still up. Yep.
This was before his car was done.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody else, maybe someone put one in a Starion or something, but it was definitely the first rear-wheel drive BMW 4G63.
Yeah, it's probably still the only one, right?
No, there's some in
No, there's a couple. There's one.
Okay.
There's one.
I know some others, and they're probably way nicer than mine was.
Yeah.
But then in that same car, I gave up on the 4G63. It was just a disaster, and I sold the engine to some kid in Hawaii, and I bought an SR20 and put the whole drivetrain from SR20 in it.
Yeah, the transmission's a little stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like a sports car transmission, sort of. And that was better, but I couldn't get down with the Nissan engine too well. I broke it a couple times.
Seems to be the theme of all of the stories. They all have a broken car in them somewhere.
Oh, it fits
that
right
car
in.
hated engines. Yeah, it went through a few.
But you're actually the second guest we've had on the podcast that's done an early 4G63 rear-wheel drive swap. So
cool.
We
What
had,
was the other one?
We had Jeremy on 4G63 Mighty Max's forum name everywhere.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he had a blue extended cab Mighty Max pretty early on in the rear-wheel drive 4G63 days. So
Yeah, because that engine's not really set up for rear-wheel drive.
No, it's not.
no.
Like the cooling you have to kind of futz with because it's
you make a crazy pipe to come around the front and then off the back by the firewall, and there's just better. I learned a lot of lessons from that one, and that lessons were, what's great is a stock car. Those are the best.
Yeah.
Just don't dick around in your driveway for a year and just work harder at work and earn money and then buy a nicer car.
That's not our credo.
That's my old man lesson.
I've kind of learned that over the years. You just like my Talon has got a lot of work done to it, but I don't really drive that much. And the Gallant, which is basically a stock rebuild with a couple of things on it, I drive all the time. So
yeah, I guess that mantra has been refined over the years of interacting with customers who you felt like their existence orbited a car and nothing else.
yeah.
And you see these rich guys who like buy things to just sort of play a part. They buy something because they want to fit in, or they buy something because they've been told it's cool to buy. And you kind of want to operate somewhere in between those two things. You want to have like a little free time and a little money, but you don't want to be the poser, right? So it's like, I think my zone is somewhere in the middle there.
Well, I don't mind not having any money or free time, so I have lots of crap cans. Doesn't thrill the wife, but hey,
you can enjoy driving them, and that's another story.
and that's what it is. It was the other day I was talking to my wife about selling. I have a 1978 Colt that I drive pretty much regularly in the summertime. And she's like, "Oh, you could sell it. We can use a couple bucks there." And I was like, "But that's like the only car right now I drive that brings me pleasure. So I don't want to sell it."
Right.
Yeah, you can always sell the other ones that you have.
Shh, quiet now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find yourself? You've had the Evo for a long time. Do you find yourself getting stuck on a car for a long time, or do you normally don't do that and you kind of pass?
No, the Evo's sort of been a special case, and I think part of that is because I really did like the car a lot, and I continue to appreciate it for different reasons. And at first, it was just like this really mythical thing that I never thought I'd have. So I appreciated it from that angle. And then I had it, and wow, it actually lived up to my expectations. It was something that was as good as I thought it was going to be. And then I liked it for a long time because of that. And it brought me a lot of experiences that through racing at the track and hill climbs, and now doing Mount Washington twice, going on a third time. So it's sort of like been around for all these different things in my life. And I don't have any desire to sell it, although I did a while ago. So yeah, it's stuck around. And also, of course, it hasn't been crashed, right? Like it hasn't been, it's been a really great car to drive. It's not hard to control. So it stayed out of the woods. I'm gonna knock on wood right now. But if it did and that's how it went, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Well, we're not. We want to see it for the next, decade running, and we want to see you running it for the next decade or so. I really
like using things, and I like getting everything out of them. And if something happens to it when it's racing, then that's okay. But if it like fell off the trailer on the way to the race and went into the woods or something, that would really break my heart, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, I can understand that completely. If something, at the same mantra, you see a lot of the vintage race car guys driving around their, 3, 4, 5, 10, $15 million Ferraris.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can they do that? But you know what?
Yeah.
It's what the car was built for. They're out enjoying it the way it was meant to be enjoyed. And if something happens, they have the wall to fix it. So, that story might not be the same in our case as far as the wall to fix it. But, if I was doing a hill climb at my Starion and I spun it off into a tree, I guess, it would suck. I've had the car for quite some time, going on a decade, actually. And, but I wouldn't be terribly upset. Whereas the reason I could take it off the road a few years ago is because some dummy blew a stop sign, and that really pissed me off.
Right. And you'd be able to tell people that you raced in a hill climb, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
So I know you were getting the car ready for Mount Washington because you run in 2011. So they're kind of doing it not every other year, I think. It's sort of...
Yeah, it took a little hiatus from, now it was 11, then 14, and now 17. So
well,
I think it's kind of whenever they can get the funding.
Yeah, it ran for many years before that, and then it was a huge break until 2011.
Yeah.
And, either it was funding or permission from... Because it's a private auto road up Mount Washington, so whether it was to get permission or the insurance for it. But anyway, because they brought it back, which is what the cool thing is.
Subaru, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Help them.
Yeah, Subaru's been really good for a lot of motorsports.
For sure.
And so that's very cool. And then
I have a Subaru, so I thank them by buying one.
Exactly. And then it's cool, too, that they do open it up to other people, and it's not just like a Subaru-only event. But, they have they have the nice fast Subaru cars where Higgins shows up and Pastrana shows up, which is cool. But they also open it up to little guys and independent teams, which is nice. And it's also not a bad... I've spectated it twice. The first year, I was above the cloud line, and that was pretty awful because it was cold and windy because it's Mount Washington.
Yeah.
And then the second year, I should say I was above the tree line. We were just above the tree line at the only dirt corner, and it was one of the very, very rare all sunny days there. And it was gorgeous. It was probably like 70 degrees where we were sitting all day. So it's a good, if you want to spectate, it's pretty cool. Yeah. 2014 was good because you can either hike up or we got there super early. They let us drive up to the top, and then we didn't walk down. We hiked down a couple miles to the middle of the course, which was not bad going down. Going up at the end of the day was a little tough because I had a bunch of camera gear with me, and I didn't think, I'm carrying 30 or 40 pounds of camera stuff. This is going to be annoying hiking, and I don't hike that often. So I was a little tired going up.
It wasn't as bad as
a big hill.
It wasn't as bad as a friend with us who brought his boom box that takes 8 D batteries. So
yes,
he was more ill prepared than you were. Of course, I wasn't there. I've just heard the story 1,000 times, and I'm making fun of him for it because I know he'll listen.
Yes,
but that's beside the point.
Anyway, so I know you've been getting the car ready for it. I've seen that you've done some. You had it on the dyno. You had it tuned, and it was I think you kind of. It wasn't really running right before. Is that what I understand it?
It was. We ran into some problems, and I have always stood by the guy who was always tuning all of our race cars for many years, and I continue to stand by him. But I threw him sort of a big challenge by going to this new ECU right before the event, and it was a lot to figure out. And we had closed for 2011, it ran an Autronic ECU, SMC. It was like a Group N board and a Evo 8 case. And I had I made a harness for it to run Evo 8 ECU. And It ran fine then. It was fine. That was on a 40 millimeter restrictor. There were no problems. It didn't have like altitude compensation back then. Like it had no baro sensor. It was just kind of like an old school ECU that was better than a stock ECU.
Yeah.
And then for 2014, it ran a Life F88R, which is a much more advanced ECU. Nissan used it in the Delta Wing car. And it's really cool. And I asked Matt, who was our tuner, to tune it, and he thankfully said he would do it. And Franz Diebold, do you guys know Franz?
I know the name.
Yeah, I've definitely heard the name.
He owns Diebold Autosport, and he does like basically motorsports at a level that like we don't operate at. You know, it's like he gets hired by professional teams to do tuning for them, and he builds harnesses for like actual real race cars. And so he was the guy that sold it. He's the expert for life and for life racing. And he gave Matt a primer, but there were a lot of things that the shop was closed in 2014. So Matt was basically like coming down to do me a favor. And Franz did some remote desktop stuff to get me set up. And then we went to the dyno with Matt, and he got the car running fine, but there were a lot of features that we weren't using and things that he didn't know about on the ECU that we could have taken advantage of that we didn't. And there were some problems. One problem was in practice, the car was running super lean, and we had no idea why, because we'd look at the map and everything would look fine. And I'm not a tuner, so I don't know exactly what was going on. I get to an event, and I kind of just become a driver, and I stop wanting to think about everything else. But the car was so lean that you couldn't pull off, like you couldn't get it moving in first gear without like launching it. So we did this second half of the mountain practice on, I believe, Saturday, or maybe it was Friday. And I had to bail on the practice because they staged us on the side of the road, and I couldn't get the car moving up the hill. Like one car would go and the next one would pull up 20 feet. And I was like, the car would just stall. So I had to back down and turn around and just coast down the hill. And that really like threw my head for a loop. You know, you want to practice and you want everything to work right. And so somehow we worked through that. And then this is sort of a point of contention still for everybody, but the ECU came with a high water temp shutoff safety. So if the water temp, I don't remember the figure, and this is part of the contention, but if the water temp hits like 200 or 220, the car will shut off, like to protect the engine.
Right.
Which that's not like very hot either.
That was my argument. My argument, right? So on the second time run, my car shut off right after the dirt, and my day was over. That was it. And I didn't know why it shut off at the time, but it had hit that safety feature. And on the first time run that I actually made it up, it shut off then also. But it turned back on because it was in the morning, and it was just like flirting with that border that it was cutting out, but it came back on, and I thought like it had fuel starvation or something, which would have been really weird. But I was trying to play it off like something else, and I didn't even mention it. But the second run, it was warmer out, and I put it over the edge. So that was a real bummer, and because certainly if that happened, I would have said, let's just send this engine to car hell. I don't care. Run it all the way. There's 20 seconds left in the event. And it's really expensive to run the event.
Yeah, and 200 degrees is a thermostat opens at 180. It's not like
it's overheating and shooting
yeah.
smoke out. I don't care. Like just do it.
Yeah, it's like
because a cylinder head at that point is nothing in terms of the cost of getting everybody there and renting a house and all the fuel and it just goes on forever.
And then it's kind of like if you're at Pikes Peak, like you get one shot. Like, you just do it. If the car breaks, it breaks. Like,
right. So this year, Bill and I hired Franz to come up from Virginia and tune our cars. And he did, I think, 80 pulls with my car on the dyno.
That's a lot.
Yeah. We were there a long time. I went through 10 gallons of fuel on the dyno.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the thing's running awesome. It is so good. We have a couple more things to do. I have several boost maps. And this is all stuff Matt could have done. I'm not like bad mouthing Matt at all. Like he's awesome. But again, like if someone was like, I want you to like study this law book and get back to me tomorrow, but I'm only going to pay you to like understand page 1, but learn the whole book. You know, it's like kind of that. He had no incentive to. So the anti-lag is banging. It's going to have launch control this time. I've never had that before because I've never had a speed sensor.
Excellent.
That's really another thing that like relieves a lot of stress because you don't want to flub the launch and stall the car like the run. You might as well just not take the run if you do that.
Right. What class are you running with this?
Unlimited now, so no restrictor. That's another new thing.
So you're running against
like Estrada and Higgins and the Super Chicken.
Awesome.
Those are the big ones.
Cool.
Well, definitely.
We have like
we're rooting for the underdog. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure who the underdog is. If it's me or the Super Chicken.
I feel the Super Chicken's history has puts it a little less of an underdog.
Yeah, I'd agree with that actually.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. But like it's backwoods Vermonty style. It makes it an easy underdog story.
It does, but it grew up in the mountains.
It did.
Right.
Yeah. It's been developed on the hill.
Developed in the mountains. And Paul was a sick driver too, so like that's never to be questioned. Like,
definitely not.
Driver.
It's definitely he's definitely a worthy competitor of the.
It's two cars, mine and Paul's, that could just explode at any moment, and then it's two factory cars that definitely will explode at any moment, but will have spare engines.
Yes.
And then and so it's going to be an interesting show.
Right? Yeah, I'm excited for it this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, it should be really good.
And we have a map on I have like a dial on the dash, so I can turn the boost up and down, but I can also turn it to a position that like tells the motor it's about to be sent to hell. So if it does overheat or something, all the safeties are off.
So if you're near the top of the mountain and you're like,
yeah,
something's wrong, but guess what? We're going to finish this event.
Guess what? You have no choice. You're going.
I like it.
All right.
I like it. We'll be there to pick up pieces if we need to be, but hopefully that won't be the case.
Well, as long as you make it to the top, it can just roll down.
Right.
We have we have a couple of guests on the show now who will be competing. I think, right?
Yep. Vinny's going to run his Talon.
Yep.
Cool.
So it's we'll have a few people to root for. Thankfully, you guys are in different classes, so we can root for both of you without feeling guilty.
Yeah. Actually, there's quite a few 4G 6.3 powered vehicles running up the mountain, which is cool.
Yeah, that is good. There's another Evo, Rob, from New Jersey, but it's not a 4G powered Evo. It's
No, it's Evo 10, which that's a very fast car.
4G powered Evo. Yeah, that's a good car.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be a good show.
Well, do you have any like sponsors or anything you want to plug or?
Yeah, but none. So, two actually. One that I will reveal exclusively on this podcast.
Oh, sweet, awesome!
1552 Wheels is supporting me.
Oh, excellent!
I haven't mentioned it or put up any photos yet because I don't want to do that like standard sponsor intro and people like take a picture of the box when it shows up at their front door and they're like, "This is my sponsor." It's a box. So I wanted to put them on the car with the proper tires, and this is taking a little bit longer than I thought, right? Because I have to order tires, so that should happen next week, and I'll take some pictures. But they look awesome. The wheels are badass. I wanted wheels that were sort of Group A style, and we found those. So
are they the Tarmacs?
Yeah, the Tarmacs. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They kind of look like Rega Masters a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Yeah.
Well, Regas are probably one of my favorite wheels ever.
Oh, we're big fans of the Group A style wheels here too.
Nice.
Seen Andrew Gallant runs the. He used to have the OZs and.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, now I've got the Team Dynamics that look like they're look-alike to the Ralliart 5-spokes.
Yep. Yeah, those are sweet. And then my wife, her business, she has a dog business, a dog care, and she takes dogs on hikes in the metro Boston area. Basically, like for those from Mass, like Route 9 sort of is the backbone of her pickup drop-off area. But she runs this business, and we're supporting her business, and she's supporting me. And the dog livery will be prominent on the car. You guys will probably saw a couple pics on Instagram.
Yeah, I've seen little teaser pics there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
What's the name of her business?
It's called Beantown Hounds.
Excellent.
Yeah, which they're on Instagram and, of course, have a website, right?
Yep, they do. It's beantownhounds.com and also on Insta. Beantown Hounds.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's nice to have a spouse that's supportive, and I feel like I can sort of support her in a way, even though, we don't expect that anybody at Mount Washington is going to be knocking on her door for business. It's still something cool that we can do.
Yeah,
together.
coverage on the internet goes a long way nowadays. So
Yeah, it does, especially at an event like that. It's sort of a higher profile event.
yep.
And it's kind of if you listen to this podcast and you go look at pictures of the car, it's like a really unique looking sort of livery, and it's, I don't know, it kind of works. It's like these really cool cartoony drawings of dogs, and they're hanging out the back windows like they're going along for the ride.
Yeah, it's
like
very cool.
I like it.
So we did some T-shirts in that similar style. So this was sort of like a carryover from these shirts.
Oh, cool.
And this artist named Shayna, and her last name is Pasek.
Uh-huh.
I might be butchering that, but Shayna is a really great cartoonist that we worked with to develop that livery. And it's been a real pleasure to have that done. And she helped me with the file for the vinyl people, and she did Megan's T-shirts. And we actually met Shayna because Chris, her husband, was a customer at the shop. And Chris is also a well-known artist, has done some art for Facebook and Google, and he does like a lot of big corporate art. He did some emojis recently for Google. So you'll see his stuff all over. And also it's big in like skateboarding and BMX.
Mm-hmm.
So good people. And it's nice this time around to do something that feels a little bit more professional, to have like at least a little bit of vinyl, to have fresh tires, that are new, and a car that's running 100%. Even though my driving is getting like worse and worse over the years because I don't drive it ever, but the operation's looking better and better.
No, cool. No, it's good. It's good to hear. I like to hear from, sort of people that are, you're not pro level, but you're a little more advanced than an amateur, I'd say, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, we have experience to draw on, and it's not like being self-complimentary. It's like when I think I kind of, this from Bill, like everything that Bill, my friend and former business partner, he rubs off on me a lot. And he had this thing when he'd always look to the highest form of motorsport for inspiration and for cues on how to operate and how to build things. And you have all these, this is sort of a digression, but I'll bring it back into reality. Like you have all these tuner shops that started when we did, or just after we did, that were making like the same old stuff, and things look the same way, and they were using each other sort of as cues on what to do. And Bill never did that. He always looked to the top. And we tried to operate when we did the rally service and we had a rally team. We always tried to look at professional teams. Even Vermont Sports Car is one of them, but like in Europe too, and operate how they operate. And even just looking to the right people to copy is, I think, a good thing to do.
Does Bill still run the Nissan?
He does. Yeah. And he's going to be
running this year?
Yeah. He'll be fast. He's always good. He's an awesome driver.
He's running unlimited as well, correct?
He isn't. There's another class, and I wish I could tell you offhand. It's like the 2-wheel drive version of unlimited.
So it's unlimited minus 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, minus 2 axles.
For those who don't know, that's Bill Washburn, and he runs the Maxi 240 RS. I think they call it 240.
Yep. His Instagram is like really super popular. It's 240 RS Maxi.
Yep. That car was on the cover. I remember it was on the cover of Sport Compact Car.
It was. Yeah, that was like the first GT Live when he beat the S2000. It came over from Japan.
Yeah, that car's pretty amazing. He's had that car all over the country, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He's been developing it for a long time. It should be really good this year.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing car. It's another one I remember, the beginnings of it and up through now, and it's cool to have been around these things since the beginning and see the development of them. Like I said, from almost street car days of your car to now where it's a vinyl stickered race car.
Right.
Absolutely proper.
Yep. Thanks.
Well, it's not something, I don't know, you grow up in Massachusetts, car culture isn't super huge here, but you got to really look for it.
You do.
But then when you find it, there's some really cool stuff. So
yeah, everybody's very like Yankees are like very conservative
Yeah,
sort of like Germans, you know, they're peeling badges off their car and they're putting them in the garage instead of showing them off like you might see in like Miami or LA or something. You know?
Exactly.
It's like this conservative Yankee mentality, which is totally cool. Like I think it's fine.
Yeah, Miami, where every BMW is an M car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I ride my bike to work and home. I don't really drive that much, but there's a Renault R5 Turbo that I see coming up and down Route 20 near my house. Like I just drive, it's like brown. It's the weirdest thing.
That's pretty
You
awesome,
just drive
actually.
it all the time, all summer. And you would never know it's like a super rare cool car. They're out there in mass.
I used to work at a shop in Marblehead, and one of the guys down the street from the shop had a Delta Integrale, and it was the same thing.
Cool.
Like you never saw it anywhere other than just driving down the street. You never saw him at a show. You never saw him do anything else. It was just, hey, there's Delta Integrale in that guy's driveway, and he's driving to work today.
Well, there's another one around now. My friend, and I'll let him reveal the news, but he got one, and it's an Evo 1.
Oh, excellent!
Nice.
I can't wait to see that one either.
Yeah, those
That'll
are
be in mass also.
very cool. Very cool. I think so. That was pretty great having you on.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for calling in, and I think our listeners will really enjoy that because it's a little different from, like I said, just listening to us every week.
And it's one level up from our amateur level of motorsport.
Maybe a couple levels up.
Yeah,
Together we've clubman level.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
pro-am, right? Semi-pro.
Yeah.
We're professionally amateur, so
Yes.
we've been amateurs for a lot of years, so we're really good at it now. Just that's a money situation, unfortunately, but maybe someday we'll get there. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll get
You guys will. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
29 episodes is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's over half a year now, so we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and people apparently like it.
Yeah, no, we have way more listeners than we ever thought we'd have. So
Good.
But thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it. It was real cool talking to you. Real cool talking car history. And anytime you want to come back, please do. And we'll definitely see you running up the hill.
Absolutely.
And so your social media is PleasureEVO.
Yep.
Is there any other social medias you want to push, talk about?
My wife's is Beantown Hounds. We talked about Bill's. That's 240 RS Maxi. My brother's is N Grabau. That's just the letter N and Grabau. He's building an M3. He'll be racing at Climb the Clouds.
Excellent.
Got a Motec in his M3. Really nice setup. Good brakes. Should be a solid car. He won his class last time, so it'll be fast as usual.
Excellent, excellent. So he knows the mountain.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Very well. Very good. Very good.
So yeah, that's it. And when will there be a link up here that we can point people to for this?
I will. We'll post this to. It gets hosted by Shout Engine, and then I post the link to the Facebook page, and I share it through like my own page and Brad's page, and we have a couple of listeners that share it elsewhere.
And we'll be sure to send you a link.
Yeah, we'll definitely send you a link, and then I like to put a little Instagram teaser up that on the. So you can actually follow this podcast. We are on Facebook at Auto Off Topic Podcast, on Instagram Auto Off Topic, or you can email me complaints if you want. autoofftopic@gmail.com. I actually had somebody email me the other day. They're asking about first gen Monteros.
Excellent.
So I answered them. So that's pretty cool. What about you, Brad?
Well, as always, the podcast is brought to you by my company, Vintage Imports of New England. VintageImportsNE.com. It's the same on Facebook, Vintage Imports of New England, and my Instagram is Vintage Imports of New England. So just Google it; it comes up everywhere. You can email me personally any questions about buying an old car. You have an old car you want to sell. You want to import a car from Europe. We're working pretty strongly with that now. We're actually working to get a diesel first-gen Shogun over here soon. But you can email me, Brad, at VintageImportsNE.com.
And you do appraisals too, right?
I can do appraisals. We can do automotive shipping. We have an enclosed car carrier for a single car. So something special you want moved, you don't want outside, give me a call. I can do that. But yeah, stated value appraisals in the state of Massachusetts I can do. And all kinds of full-service vintage car stuff.
We can hook you up with photos if you want to sell your car.
Yeah, absolutely. So. We can consign your car for you and put it out there for you and take it from start to finish if you want. So
If you want to follow me, I am Race and Anger on Instagram. Enzo, my dog, has been under the table here, and now he's getting fresh, so I think it's time to wrap up. But if you are curious, you can follow him on Instagram. It's Cuddle Buddy Enzo.
Hey, you got it right this time.
Yes. And anything else you want to push? Your wife's book, Brad?
I probably should do that.
Yes.
You're absolutely correct, Andrew. D.A. Flanagan is the name of the author, who happens to be my wife. And she wrote a book, and her book is called Maddox Pike, which you can buy on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Pick it up, read it, ebook. It's not very expensive. It's a good read. It's a cool mystery story. Mm-hmm. She's working on a children's book now as well, which should hopefully be out in the next month or so, which she wrote and illustrated everything. So obviously Maddox Pike is not a children's book. So the second book is a little bit of a departure, but hey, I wish her all the luck in the world. And D.A. Flanagan is her author page on Facebook as well.
All right. And once again, I just want to thank you, Alex, for calling in.
You're welcome, guys.
All right.
That's a wrap. Thanks a lot.
See you soon, Alex. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Keep your cars analog.